Okay, Amy,
Oh,
good
good
morning.
morning. Good morning. We're a couple of minutes behind, but you know what? That's okay. That's just how life goes
When
sometimes.
things
And
don't go as planned.
I think our first ever conscious conversation, like we are able to utilize that every day in some form or fashion.
Yes, here we are again.
Oh, yeah. I feel like this conversation for today was really clear of like what is going to be I think, good and meaningful and helpful conversation both for you and I, and I think for anybody who's joining us, and that is about living aligned with our own authenticity.
Mm.
And I don't know if you have heard of this or not, Nikki, but there was a study done by a group of scientists where they were measuring the electromagnetic output, like essentially the vibration
Mhm.
of various emotions in people. So they brought this test group together. They would ask them to kind of hold a certain emotion in their body, and then they would test vibrationally where the offput was. And they thought that love would be the highest vibration, that like that would be the highest that they would see any emotion register. But when they asked the participants to embody authenticity, it registered higher than love. And
Mm.
so to me, this learning how to really connect and attune with our own authentic self, that is connecting with our highest best self, the part of us that like has fun and makes impact and feels passionate. And I think all of the things that we're often craving. But if we are living more aligned with ego, and for appeasement or acceptance of others, we are going to be so out of whack with our authenticity. So
Mm.
I'd love to hear from you when you think of authentic self, like what is the definition that comes to mind?
Okay, yeah, because I was just thinking to kind of level set in examples where when I let my like ego take over versus my higher self or my authentic self, I'm trying to
Hmm.
think of a definition, but I do have examples. Like my authentic self feels in flow, it feels natural. I feel good about who I am. Like I
Mm.
feel like this is me versus, some of the examples I was thinking of just to kind of level set are when the ego takes over, it's like, that feeling of I'm trying to be right or maybe validated versus empowering like all of us together to like see the vision and serve the greatest good, or
Hmm.
maybe in communication in a challenging pickle with someone, I would in an ego state react defensively, or I'm trying to prove my point versus coming from curiosity and trying to understand them and be in it together to get to that next best place. Both of those situations, I don't feel good. I don't feel in flow. I don't feel like my natural self. I don't feel grounded. Is that
Yeah.
helpful on
Oh,
my
for sure.
definition?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think there's lots of symptoms that we're not aligned with our authenticity. Those are some really good ones to pay attention to. And I think when I'm in, okay, fear for sure, because like you're in your authentic self, you are in a trusting state. You are in a state of like, yeah, everything's okay. There's a lack of neediness because you really are embodying your whole self. Like you embody your own wholeness. And so when we're not in that, there is a sense of fear, of neediness, of lack, of I need you to be have control. Like I need you to
Mhm.
behave this way. I need you to do, because we're looking for those outside experiences to appease something that we can only get to internally. And that doesn't mean, I don't mean to say that in a like that we don't matter in each other's lives or that our outside experiences don't matter, but the embodiment of our most highest authentic self is an internal thing. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
and I think of, especially for any women who may be listening, this could be true for men too. I've just not been a dude in this lifetime, so I don't really know how to speak from your experience. But I think what's come to me is like even just health. I mean, we've talked about health on these conscious conversations, but like how much are we often misaligned with what we need, like what our body is telling us that we need. And instead, we're looking at what someone else did, or they said this works, so I'm going to try it. And I need to get 100 plus grams of protein a day, and I've got to get cardio. And it's like, but what do you need? What feels
Mm.
right and aligned for you? Are you doing it because somebody else told you that was the path, or are you checking in with yourself to see if this is the path?
Mm, that's so good. Something that's coming back to me as I was like reflecting on what is authentic self, and that word grounded. And that is feeling really strong for me right now. When I feel grounded, that is my authentic self. It's like the base, and then operating from my core values. I
Mm.
have to know who I want to show up as. I have to do that work to know who my authentic self is. And my core values are like my North Star so that I can stay grounded. And when I don't do the practices because things get frantic and I put too much on my plate and something is off, then I'm shaken, and then I'm not operating from my core values. Therefore, I'm not grounded to make the best decisions, to feel like my best self.
I feel like that's a good exercise for many people to go through, is the core values exercise. Des and I, when Desiree Garcia was a contributing host on the podcast, we had a whole, you know, episode on values and how you create your values. And I think we even had, a link to some exercises in the show notes there. But I think that's so big. I mean, in coaching and talking to leaders, I've had some that have been like, Amy, how do I know when what I'm feeling is my ego telling me something, wanting to make something wrong, versus when there's a higher knowing that something's really off? And I think that's such a good question because, yeah, the ego can be a little bitch in the attic, and there's times it wants to, you know, like piss on our parade and make things hard when they don't need to be. But core values is something I encourage people to go back to, is like, go back to what is really important to you. And if there's misalignment there, then your feelings are justified. It's not an ego's game. It is a higher inner knowing that, you know, it's a discernment that's coming through.
Yeah. And you just made me think of something with that. When we know those, we aren't looking for the validation in other places because you know who you are. And you've
Hmm.
done that work too. I'm not trying to fill a void or fix a hole because I know and I can stand on that. Now, you could be very clear in your core values. I'll be a living example of this. I feel like I am strong in that and do regular practices in that. But do I get thrown off every single week? Yes. It's the coming back to and having less, I don't know, off grounding experiences weekly. But no matter what, no matter how much you know your North Star and do this work, it is a constant recentering.
Hmm. Yes, it is. Because it's easy. I mean, we're easily influenced, and that can be good. And it also can be not as helpful, you know?
Mhm.
And I think it's like in our careers too, it's so easy to get into comparative living, where we're just trying to keep up with where we think we should be based on our age or status, or like where our business should be and how much money we should make, and therefore we might make decisions for our business that's misaligned with our values, because we're just trying to check a box on a list that we never wrote. But we don't know that, right? We're playing the game, the ego's game. And so it can, yeah, it's interesting all the places it can show up. It is literally all aspects of life. I know you're so great at doing the life wheel.
Mhm.
And I think if anybody practices that exercise, or if you're unfamiliar, you can Google life wheel and just see how it helps you focus on the areas of your life that you deem are important. And I think that's a good place to look at our authenticity. Like, hey, with my family, not what do I think we should be doing, but like, what am I being called? What do we need? What are our family's core values?
Mhm.
And really getting back to alignment, because aligning with your authentic self, it is a feeling, but there can also be very practical behaviors that we put in place that help us get back to that center.
I think you said something really powerful. Shoulds, like the should be doing. Anytime that that's showing up, it's off track with our authentic self, because we wouldn't need to should it. Well, that's actually open for conversation, because my authentic self has a health practice that I want to hold myself to. And Nikki, you should be doing that, right? And so maybe there's some discerning there to think about how to use those shoulds, because
Hmm.
there are many times that the shoulds are things that we're doing in like comparison, or I don't know, just not healthy. But
Yeah.
there are some things where that's accountability, that's the shoulds, you
Hmm.
know?
I think that's where, like, going back and again, is it discernment, or is it is it ego? Is this higher self
Mm.
wisdom coming through, or is this ego? Because it can, it's, there's a line where it can be difficult to know. But I think that, okay, what are the value systems? What is my body
Mhm.
telling me? I think we've gotten, it's very easy for me to also get misaligned with my body, and again, like get hooked into what I think I should be doing, but what does my body say? And our body has often the answers that our mind doesn't, because the mind is really this interesting little, the brain, I should say, because the brain and the mind are two separate things, but it's this interesting little place where we can get lost and
Mhm.
talk ourselves into or out of anything. But the body has a lot of wisdom. And so centering practices like taking, some breaths, and even just saying, like, right now I'm doing this. I'm standing in front of my coffee pot. I'm taking a couple of breaths. I'm noticing my body, and I'm saying the word out loud, yes. And then noticing whether my body falls forward or backwards when I say yes. And
Mm.
then say the word no and see if my body falls backwards or forwards. For me, it's forward for yes, back for no. And then there's things that we could just, ask, like, does my body require this? How does my higher self feel about this decision? And just see where the sway is. It seems strange, right? Because we always think that the mind is the one that holds the answers, but the body has this intuition that can help us get to the root of what's true. And on some of our retreats, Nikki, we've given people pendulums.
Yeah.
Don't worry, this isn't witchcraft, y'all. The pendulums are a way. I mean, we are energetic bodies. I know that we look like solid masses to one another, but we really are energetic bodies. We put our hand under a really strong microscope, we would just see nothing but, sort of bouncing, atoms, and we would be moving. And so the using a pendulum can kind of pick up on that energetic body that has the answers. Your yeses or your nos. It's a full body yes, a full body no. And that's helpful for me. I use it on every supplement to be like, does my body? Everyone says I need B methylated vitamins. Every TikTok video, and this is what I need for perimenopause, but like, what does my body need? Jason gets a kick out of this. Jason's my husband, by the way, for those of you who may not know, but he likes to put his hand under my pendulum and just make sure that he always gets a yes. He's like, Steve, you still got to keep me around. But I think those are some tools of like there is a deeper knowing within us that has the answer. And if we can't hear the whisper of knowing because the ego yells and our highest self whispers, like wisdom is a whisper, it is not a scream. And if we have a hard time tapping into that, then things like our value system, knowing our own hardwiring, like doing assessments can be so helpful. I was just revisiting human design, and I was like, oh man, this is such a helpful like acknowledgement of what I need, right? What I need to attune to. Using pendulums or muscle testing, or, kind of tuning into the body. These are ways that we can tap into what is truly aligned for us.
Mm. So good. I'm sitting here jotting down a bunch of notes. This is always therapy for me. So I'm thinking just in reflection, my little, I guess, cookbook here recipe is, to be centered in my core values and have a daily practice that helps me stay centered in that. Like we've talked many, many times about our morning routine. And for me, my journal, my life wheel, those things, it's part of my daily practice to stay centered in my core values. And then, like I shared before, every week I fall off. Every week I sway. I do, something that I'm like, ooh, that wasn't authentic. It's just part of the game to
Mhm.
then come back as quickly as possible because you recognize it. And then what I wanted to talk about, Amy, if you want to go here, is rather than allowing the snowball to grow and become massive, when we do, right? We have that challenging conversation and then we show up in a way that is not authentic and it doesn't feel good. Like it's just like, this is
Mhm.
not me. What we do then is really a pivot. Like it's like a tipping point to, are we going to allow this to snowball, or are we going to own it and apologize, or have grace, like have grace on ourselves? I think that's a big one for me, is not to go down this snowball of beating myself up because I knew better and why did I say that. It's recognizing and then having a conscious conversation with that person to realign. I don't know if you want to go there for a minute on just, this is a daily constant practice of consciousness, right?
Yeah.
And no one is just naturally flowing all the time. We all shift and fall off, but not allowing that snowball to go, what we do then. And I just threw out grace for ourselves, but how we step in and acknowledge.
Yeah. It is the inner work first of when we recognize I'm out of alignment with who I desire to be, then to be able to regulate your system, first of all, because often when we are in a moment where something happens and we feel those buttons being pushed, we've also dysregulated our nervous system. And so it may be harder for us to want to get to a place until our nervous system is regulated, because in that dysregulation, we might teeter back and forth between justification and feeling bad, wanting, kind of the guilt that comes in of oh shit, I wasn't exactly who I wanted to be. So get yourself right first. Take a walk, make space, breathe, try and calm your nervous system down. And then I think it is, going in with no judgment for yourself and the other person is so important for us to be able to activate a higher thinking, because we cannot be in judgment and in our highest self at the same time. Judgment is an ego's emotion. And so, going in with just openness and curiosity and humility and not needing anything from that person other than to just share that you acknowledge you didn't show up how you wanted to, and to ask for a do-over. I think um, it's so easy for us to, again, get back into the needing. I need them to receive my apology. I need them to say this thing to me, but really working on going to the place where there's nothing you need. Everything is really okay. You just want to acknowledge your part. I think that's a helpful reset.
That's good. And, at the last retreat, so shout out to the High Vibe Tribe retreats. They are incredible, transformational. It's one of the best gifts you can give yourself. And I remember last year, something came to me. I said to the group, I feel like we're all on a journey for our inner peace. That is what we're going for, is when you have this inner peace and all of the ingredients in your life that we get to choose how we do that, right? In mine, it's my relationship with God, my connection to my core values, my daily practices. And, we're in that pursuit of our own journey of inner peace. And when we are off of that, it's
Mhm.
what are the things that then help us? I have people in my life, accountability, you're
Mhm.
somebody in my life that in those times that I can't even see it, because
Mhm.
yeah, I'm doing all the things. I got the recipe to be conscious, but I can't even see it. Sometimes it's those support, those key people in your life that they see it for you because you can't even see it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. What's the hard to see the picture when you're in the frame? We
Yeah.
do need those people around us who we're close enough with that they're willing to call us out on our shit with love, to be like,
Mhm.
hey, I think there's a different way you could have said this. I mean, you and I have had that conversation. We're like, hey, can I run this by you? Can I share with you how I went? And I was like, okay, well, that was an interesting way to approach that in future. I might recommend that this is what happens instead. But I think we do need those people who can reflect it back to us and know that it is just a practice. This is not about perfection. It's just about learning faster. To me, it is consciousness in general. And when we're operating from our highest, most authentic self, our most aligned self, then we are activating our higher consciousness. We are, I think, the most spiritually connected. And you can place whatever definition you want on that feels good for you. But I feel like we are the most connected to our soulful selves. And it's not about living there all the time, because we are human and we do have ego and it is going to come in. This is part of being human, but how quickly can we catch it? And I think that is a good measurement of our own conscious growth, where I know for myself, I would live in my lower self. I would live in ego for months, for years. And over time, it's like, oh, okay, I was there for a week. This week was a rough week, or this day was a rough day. And now it's more. minutes or hours that I'm there before I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, let me get myself out of this. So again, it's not about some place of perfection. It's just continuing to build the muscle of awareness so that we can get ourselves back on that path. And life just
Mhm.
feels better. We just don't feel, again, like that neediness, like I need something to change. I need this next deal. I need this person to say yes or no. Like our trust that all is well and that the path we're on is right. That is in our most authentic self.
Mhm.
And I think that's what a lot of us are seeking.
Mhm. I have a little twist to this. I've heard you say this before, and I'm trying to remember what I took away from it. So, breaking it down for a second, there's healthy states of ego, right? It's not
Yeah.
a either or. And so, we have unhealthy ego, and then we have healthy ego. And
Hmm.
we could be living our authentic self with our healthy ego. I'm thinking of one example just to throw this out, and then I want you to elaborate a little bit. I'm thinking of, okay, I used to be so scared to public speak. And then I hired a coach and I worked on it. And it's today not something that I found to be soul filling for me. But sometimes when I have a message that I'm really excited to share, I do want to take that stage and share that. My ego helps me stand taller with confidence to deliver an authentic message, right?
Mm.
That's maybe a very simple example, but just wanted to make the example that ego is not all bad. There's versions of that.
Yeah. And I think it's a where is it being placed? Like, is if ego is in the passenger seat, it's much healthier. If it's in the driver's seat, it's gonna create some destruction. But in the passenger seat, it's a co-pilot. It's like, hey, yes, we are humans living a human existence. And so let's say, you're a high achiever. We use that a lot, probably plenty of high achievers, people pleasers, perfectionists are listening in. If you're a high achiever and ego is in the driver's seat, it feels like I have to achieve to prove I'm good enough. I have to.
Yeah.
I have to. I've got to go get the next thing. And then I get the thing and then it doesn't feel good enough. So I kick the can down the road and now I have to go chase that thing. That is what it feels like when ego's in the driver's seat. It's very much it's a constant neediness. When ego's in the passenger seat, it is like, hey, you know what? I'm a pretty damn good achiever. And I don't have to do it to prove anything, but I get to. And so I'm
Mhm.
gonna. And I'm gonna use it in alignment with my highest self. Like we're gonna go make these big things happen and we're gonna make all this money, but we have really great things we're gonna do with it. Like it can be utilized more consciously. As a people pleaser, if it's in the driver's seat, it's like, oh my God, I can't say no. I'm gonna upset them. They're gonna be so upset with me. Like I can't offload this to this person because then they won't need me. And I have to be needed. That's how I'm valued. Like there's again the neediness, but in the passenger seat, it's like my superpower is helping and anticipating the
Mhm.
needs of others, but not in competition with my own needs, not
Mhm.
in sacrificing, not in martyrism. So it is a more empowered view of ego when it's in the passenger seat versus the driver's seat.
Mhm. That's really good.
Yeah. So I think, giving listeners just a few pieces to maybe practice. It is look at the areas of your life, whether it's like health or relationships or business, and ask yourself, do I feel like I'm really aligned with what's important to me? Or am I aligned with what the world has told me to make important? And ways we might know that is if we're on the brink of burnout. Burnout is a byproduct of abandoning that inner knowing. It's not just a mind thing, it's not just a schedule thing. It is abandoning our inner calling or that, more authentic self. That is a signal of like I am living aligned with somebody else's version of what my life should be, not my own. And
Mhm.
so those are signals. Your energy, time. I've been like incredibly depleted in life when I was chasing somebody else's version of good. And then just ask yourself, like, how can I become more aligned? What are my values here? What's truly important? What's one thing I can say no to? What's one thing I need to say yes to? How can I check in with my body? Where is there a full body yes or no that may be happening? And just make those small daily practices to come back into you. It doesn't have to be all at once. Doesn't have to be judgment wrapped around it. Just some conscious curiosity.
Mhm. I love that. Well, thank you so much for this today. I have a few pages of notes here. I woke up, I will tell you, you just never know with these conscious conversations. We're doing them very I don't know what's the word, just easy to jump in because we want to meet, Amy and I where we are in the day and where you are in the day. And there's like no deterrent from getting here, like didn't have to get all ready for the camera, like just be part and jump in, and we may sway and change whatever the topic is based on what's going on. And I love the topic that you threw out today, and I was like, I always love learning this from you, but this morning I'm like, I just woke up with this, like, you ever wake up, you're just edgy, like, I just don't feel this peace when I woke up. And I had to spend, normally my morning routine is a solid like 30 to 45 minutes, well over an hour, right? And just, even when I was like getting ready, taking a shower and all of this, I'm like, I still don't feel there. But something that you said today, it was this coming back to my core values, even in the midst of my morning routine, I hadn't got there. And so, but it's written down. I see it, but just having a conversation is like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better than I woke up. And that's really what it's all about, right? Just
Yeah.
taking the time to center and ground ourselves before going into the day, or could be 2 o'clock in the afternoon and you feel that you're not going to show up as your best self in that next meeting. You might need to I'm going to be 10 minutes late. It's okay. It's okay to say, I'm going to be 10 minutes late rather than forcing it and being there because you're going to be frantic and you're not going to be the person that you want to be. Like, take the time.
Yes. Advocate, advocate, advocate. It is never going to be more important to us. There's no one else that can advocate for you because no one knows your needs like you need them. And
Yeah.
I think good for you for giving yourself that permission. And also, just like you're realigned, like again, we're human. We're going to wake up and be like, I just kind of feel shitty today. Like that, or like something's off. But it can change like that. It can change
Yeah.
so fast if we just practice.
Yeah.
Put some things in practice, some of those tools that we talked about.
And the power right now is an example of like coaching or having a person in your life that guides the conversation and helps you to realign. Like, if you don't have that, programming, some kind of development or a coach or key contacts in your life that help you, it's like, man, I just 30 minutes ago, I didn't feel how I feel now. And I wasn't necessarily coming into this that I thought it'd be a therapy session today. Sometimes they are, but thank you so much.
Call
So
me
great.
anytime. Conscious
Yeah.
conversations anytime.
Yeah. Awesome. We'll see you all next
Okay.
week.
See you next week.
Bye, Amy.
Bye.